Vern also asked if you could snap your fingers and change something normally seen as immutable in the game, what would you do? I pretty much edited everything out of the game I didn't like. It's one of the benefits of designing the setting. I would complain about the existence of the setites and how to get rid of them, but I already set things up so I don't have to deal with them. It's good to be the king sometimes. As far as the setting goes, I wanted to run a by the book setting, so I don't take very much out of it, other than some of the crack that's in some of the supplements that no one's ever read. If you had to give a new player 3 rules for surviving and playing on Sanguinus, what would they be? All right. Number 1, your character is not you. I have seen so many people get so upset because they think that their character is them and they get their ego wrapped up into it. And when your character gets poo pooed, they think they're getting poo pooed. And that's not cool. It makes you do stupid things. So remember, it's a character. Every single day you play, assume your character is going to die. And then everything will be a little bit more fun so because you won't get as attached to anything. Rule number 2, be humble and open minded. We've been running this game for 4 years. We know what we're doing, we know how we like to do things, and we might do things a little bit differently. But we've been doing it for 4 years and we have a fairly large player base, so maybe we're doing something right. If you don't like it, I apologize, but it's how we do things. Rule number 3, don't act like you have something to teach us. This is rule number 2, subsection. But it's important enough to say there's a lot of people who come in and claim they've been a storyteller for years who come in and say, well, this is not how I conceived of it. Well, that's fine. I don't claim to know what the true way of Vampire the Masquerade is. I do claim to know how I run Vampire the Masquerade. And if you want to play on my server, you have decided that you want to play my way of playing Vampire the Masquerade. If you don't, I do not have a monopoly on running IRC vampire games. I will even give you the DiceBot code because I don't have anything to lose. Question number 4 from Vern. What traits of Sanguis do you think were most attractive to people? And what was the most common reason for them leaving? The most attractive trait of Sanguinus I've heard is, and I think is the best explanation of this, is that it's a consistent game that tries, unlike a lot of other games who are mainly run solely for the pleasure of PCs, it tries to consistently reproduce a book world. Like if you opened up New Corsica as it is right now and you read its description in a White Wolf supplement about New Corsica by Night, it would seem like most of the other city books they've run. It's a by the book world. It has a mix of all the different clans in the right ratios. It's got a little bit here, a little bit there. It's got some neat bits that make it unique, but in general, it's nothing too out of whack and out of sort. It tries to stick closely to the source material. So if you go to New Corsica in playing a game, there really should be very few surprises. There shouldn't be, if you're familiar with the source material, there's never should be a moment where you say, well, that's not right. I mean, Losombra anti-tribu clan with a primogen, which I've seen in other games. The other thing I think is most attractive is we're basically Vampire the Masquerade fundamentalists. We have a stripped bare version of the world. We keep the crack in the cheese to a minimum. We keep characters under control, and we try to be very, very fair-handed. So those are the two traits I think most attract people to it. Reasons for leaving over the years? People grow bored. They figure out they have different things to do with their evenings. Unfortunately, there's a lot of the great players left have left because of staff differences because they didn't agree with me. I didn't like it every single time it happened. I always thought friendships were more important than the game, but if you think otherwise, you think otherwise. Hey, it's Mr. Poe. Everyone wanted to see Mr. Poe. There's Mr. Poe being adorable, too. Wow. Special DVD feature. Question number 5 from Vern. Is Louis a boxers or a briefs guy? Louis French. He goes commando. Question number 6 from Vern. Oh, you damn Canadians. What do you think are the keys to playing an Elder or Ancilla effectively? Number 1, act the part, not the power. If you ever have to threaten anyone, then you've played a bad Elder. An Elder should just make it clear that pissing them off is a bad idea without actually having to threaten someone. Number 2, already covered a little bit. Number 1, real power is power you don't have to use. If you actually have to use your power, you're not that powerful. Real power is getting people to comply with you because they're afraid of you without having to actually threaten anyone. So it's tough. Rule number 3, never do any work that you can get some other neonate to risk his ass doing. And rule number 4, always have a backup plan and make sure that plan is a backup plan. Question number 7 from Maple Leaf Land. ShrekNet, why not? ShrekNet is a tabletop style rule. It's for simulating, in a tabletop setting. There's all these other Nosferatu. There's all this different kind of stuff going on. They should be all spying while your PC goes off and does PC stuff. So, since we don't have any NPC Nosferatu, and I'm not going to run it, it's kind of a cop-out that keeps you from, means the Nosferatu don't have to go and spy and collect information. We don't have those, so we don't have ShrekNet. So you actually have to go and do your spying on your own Nosferatu. The later 3rd ed edition of ShrekNet is this kind of Nosferatu internet connection. That was bullshit, so I could just completely ignore that. Beth asks, how do you and the STs decide who's initially involved in storylines? Usually by whoever is not in Elysium and as we can get to. The biggest trouble in starting storylines, especially little ones that don't involve going off and killing people, is finding people who aren't hunkered down somewhere and out of reach. Just finding one or two people alone in a public channel is just a gold mine for us. You have to understand. We can go and just do something. We can have a random gypsy storyteller walk up to you or fortune teller walk up to you, and we can have fish fall from the sky and you'd actually notice it other than just being thumping noises on the top of the Elysium. We can have your wallet be stolen. We can do stuff to you. If you're in Elysium or anything like that, we can't do anything to you, and that's the biggest trouble starting storylines. Sometimes we have particular targets involved, like so-and-so is doing this, let's do this to him and get something started there. But usually it's just whoever we can actually get to. Roman asked, how do I like my toast? I like my bread like I like my women, Roman. Slightly toasted and covered in strawberry jam.